Imagine being trapped in a luxurious mountain resort during a relentless blizzard, the kind of storm that transforms million-dollar views into a prison of snow and ice. Now, picture yourself as Liam Peterson, the world's youngest tech mogul, arrogant, successful, and suddenly faced with an inconvenience no amount of wealth can fix. The resort's only available room? One you must share with Ava Williams, the humble housekeeper, whose quiet strength masks a hidden past as powerful as the storm raging outside. But here's the twist. This isn't just a story about a billionaire's inconvenience. It's about the shocking revelation that forces Liam to confront his arrogance and rediscover the humanity he left behind in his relentless climb to the top. Because Ava isn't just any housekeeper. Her father was the very man who gave Liam his first break, a debt Liam never acknowledged, let alone repaid. This isn't a tale of luxury and privilege. It's a story about the unexpected places where redemption is found, the people who become family despite circumstance, and the surprising ways our past returns to shape our future. If you've ever felt the weight of unmet expectations or the pain of a missed connection, this story isn't just for entertainment. It's a reminder that even the coldest hearts can find warmth in the most unlikely of places. The mountain. Resort Pinecrest Heights was Liam Peterson's sanctuary until the storm hit. "Man, this weather's wild," he muttered, eyeing the snowflakes swirling like cotton candy outside his floor-to-ceiling window. As the world's youngest tech mogul, he'd booked the presidential suite to escape the chaos of his empire. But when the resort's PA system crackled with an urgent announcement, all guests must remain indoors due to extreme blizzard conditions, his plans evaporated faster than a snowflake in July. Ava Williams, the humble housekeeper with a PhD in patience, had seen this before. She tightened her grip on her cart, loaded with fresh linens, as guests scrambled in panic. "It'll pass," she reassured a fussy mother clutching a toddler. Liam, meanwhile, scowled at his phone, typing furiously to his assistant. "Delay. The board call. I'm stranded." Little did he know, the storm was just the beginning of his blizzard surprise. A plot twist even his algorithms couldn't predict. The resort's grand lobby buzzed with chatter as guests gathered around the fireplace. A retired couple shared stories of surviving the 1993 storm of the century, while a TikTok influencer live-streamed the chaos, shouting, "This is so going viral!" Liam sat at the corner, nursing a whiskey, his mind racing. "One night," he thought, "and I'll be out of here." Across the room, Ava adjusted a Christmas tree ornament, her thoughts on her daughter, Emma, who'd missed their weekly call. The power flickered, casting shadows over the room. Someone yelped, "Is the electricity going out?" Ava's hand flew to her chest. Emma's medical device needs charging. Liam glanced up, annoyed by the commotion. Typical, he thought. Everyone's losing it. But the storm wasn't done yet. The manager, Mr. Hayes, announced the news no one wanted to hear. "All rooms are booked, except one." The room erupted. "You've got to be kidding me," Liam growled, his voice oozing with his signature arrogant millionaire charm. Ava froze mid-sweep. Not again, she thought. She'd been paired with impossible guests before, a CEO who demanded she reorganize his shoe collection at 3 a.m., but Liam's aura screamed millionaire in rage. Mr. Hayes cleared his throat. "The only available room is a suite, but it's shared." The words hung in the air like a ticking time bomb. Ava's phone buzzed with a text from her sister. "How's the storm?" She forced a smile. "Steady," she replied, though her insides churned. Emma's chemo was delayed, and every minute counted. Liam, meanwhile, paced like a caged lion. "This is unacceptable. I pay you people to prevent this." His voice boomed, drawing stares. Ava's jaw tightened. "Stay calm. One night, one room." She reminded herself of the mantra her late father had taught her. Strength isn't yelling, it's enduring. The manager shuffled papers. "Mr. Peterson, Ms. Williams will be your roommate tonight." Liam's glare could have melted the ice outside. I'd rather share a cell with a Yeti. Ava loaded her cart with extra blankets, her mind racing. How do I explain this to Emma? She dialed her daughter's number, heart heavy. Hey, baby. I'm stuck at work for a bit longer. Love you. Before hanging up, she noticed Liam staring at the roaring fireplace. Need a hand with the logs? She asked, her voice soft. He blinked, taken aback. I've got it, he snapped, turning away. Ava sighed. Some people never learn. But as the blizzard howled outside, she knew tonight's storm wasn't just about snow. It was about secrets, pride, and a shocking connection waiting to thaw. Liam's jaw tightened as he stormed into the shared suite, the door slamming behind him. Ava had arrived minutes earlier, arranging the room with her usual efficiency, fluffing pillows, straightening the chaise lounge, and placing a mug of herbal tea on the side table. The suite was opulent, with a gas fireplace and floor-to-ceiling. Windows now obscured by a whiteout. This is ridiculous, Liam growled, tossing his phone onto the king-sized bed. Ava didn't flinch. The manager said the blizzard could last days, she said quietly, adjusting a vase of pine cones. Days? I don't do days here. Liam kicked off his loafers, his tone dripping with disdain. What's your name anyway? Ava paused. Ava Williams. She extended a hand, but Liam ignored it, collapsing onto the sofa. Ava bit back a sigh. This is going to be a long night. The tension was thick enough to slice with a knife. Liam scrolled through his emails, muttering under his breath about amateur hour at the resort. Ava focused on folding towels into swans, a silly trick she'd learned from a coworker, anything to avoid the awkwardness. The hum of the heater was the only sound until Liam broke the silence. Why are you still here? He demanded. Aren't housekeepers done by 5? Ava's hand stilled. My shift ended hours ago, but someone had to prep this room, and since you're trapped together, guess who's stuck with you? Her tone was light, but her eyes flashed. Liam scowled. I could have stayed in the lobby. Ava snorted. With that attitude, they'd toss you out faster than yesterday's trash. For a second, Liam looked unsettled. Ava set the towel swan on the nightstand. Need anything? She asked, already knowing the answer. No. Liam's reply was brisk, but his eyes lingered on the tea she'd made. Stubborn man, she thought. Ava pulled a book from her bag, The Alchemist, dog-eared and well-loved, and settled into the armchair. Liam's phone buzzed with another work notification. Can't your company survive without you for one night? She teased, not looking up. Liam glanced at her, surprised. Excuse me? Ava shrugged. Just saying. Maybe the world won't end if you disconnect. She didn't expect him to take her advice, but when he hesitated, she almost smiled. Almost. By 10 p.m., the snow was still falling, and the room had grown quiet. Ava could hear Liam pacing upstairs, probably talking to his board via speakerphone. She sighed. He's like a caged animal, she thought. All that money, but no idea how to just be. She texted her sister again. Still here. Roommate's a nightmare, but manageable. Love you both. Emma's last message popped up. Tell. The nightmare I say hi. Ava chuckled. If only you knew. Across the room, Liam finally switched off his laptop. The sudden silence made the room feel smaller. Ava marked her page. Lights out? She asked, already knowing his answer. I'll sleep when I'm dead, he muttered, diving back into his phone. Ava shook her head. Some people really do live in their own worlds. The clock ticked past midnight. Ava drifted between sleep and wakefulness, the flickering fireplace casting shadows on the walls. Upstairs, Liam's pacing had slowed to an occasional thud. When she heard a muffled curse, she sat up. Now what? She padded into the hallway, finding Liam glaring at a dead power outlet. The storm knocked out the electricity upstairs, he said, more to himself than her. Ava raised an eyebrow. Candles? She suggested, gesturing to the fireplace. Liam hesitated, then nodded. As she lit the first candle, the room warmed, not just from the flame, but from the unspoken truce in the air. Maybe, she thought, this isn't just about surviving the storm. Liam Peterson's patience had worn thinner than the ice on his champagne flute. This is an outrage, he muttered, pacing the suite like a caged tiger. Ava Williams, perched on the edge of the chaise lounge, glanced up from her book. The candlelight cast a warm glow on her features, softening the sharp edges of the room. Inconvenience, he spat the word like a curse, collapsing onto the sofa. You call being stuck in a 5-star prison an inconvenience? Ava's lips twitched. Some people would call it an adventure. Liam snorted. Adventure? More like a disaster. He gestured to the half-empty minibar. No Wi-Fi, no power upstairs. What's next? A bear at the door? Ava's eyes sparkled, with withheld laughter. I'll check the windows if you want. Liam groaned, flopping back against the cushions. Why am I even talking to you? Ava shrugged, her voice steady. Maybe because you've got nowhere else to vent. She marked her page and set the book aside. But if it helps, I get it. You're used to control. This, she waved a hand at the snow-choked windows, isn't exactly your style. Liam's gaze flickered to hers. You have no idea who I am. Ava tilted her head. I know you're a millionaire in rage, but rage burns out fast. What's left then? The question hung in the air, unanswered. Ava busied herself with the fireplace, stoking the flames to combat the creeping chill. Liam watched her, his irritation warring with an odd curiosity. Her uniform, a crisp white blouse and navy skirt, clashed with the cozy chaos of their temporary quarters. Why are you still here? He asked again, this time softer. Ava didn't look up. My daughter's in a rehab center 2 towns. Over. I needed the shift. Liam's fingers tightened around his glass. So you take orders from people like me? She smiled faintly. Someone's got to clean up after the arrogant millionaire. The jab was gentle, but it hit its mark. Liam's expression darkened. You think this is all a game? Luxury suites, private jets? Ava cut him off with a laugh. I don't care about your toys, but sitting here pretending this storm isn't messing with your perfect life? That's your problem. She tossed a log into the fire. The crackle filled the silence. Liam's eyes narrowed. You're awfully bold for a housekeeper. Ava's smile turned wistful. My dad always said kindness trumps hierarchy. Liam opened his mouth to retort, but the words died on his tongue. The flickering firelight caught the faint scar on her wrist, a question mark he didn't dare ask about. Upstairs, the unlit bedroom loomed like a challenge. Liam had claimed it without a second glance, leaving Ava to the sofa. But now, as he hovered at the threshold, he hesitated. Ava's low voice followed him. You'll need blankets. The drafts here are brutal. He didn't thank her. Instead, he grabbed 2 throws from the armchair, their hands brushing briefly. The contact was electric, a spark beneath the frost. Liam ignored it. I won't be sleeping anyway, he lied, shutting the door with a decisive click. But, he lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling. He couldn't shake the memory of her words. What's left then? The question gnawed at him like a splinter. Somewhere downstairs, Ava hummed a tune he recognized. Amazing Grace. The notes drifted up, soft and unassuming. Liam rolled onto his side. For the first time in years, he wondered if maybe, just maybe, his life wasn't as perfect as he'd pretended. The storm raged on, relentless. Liam's phone, abandoned on the nightstand, buzzed with missed calls and angry emails. He silenced it without looking. Downstairs, Ava had moved her chair closer to the fire, the candle's glow painting her face in gold and shadow. She'd stopped pretending to read, and was now tracing patterns in the air with her finger. Liam watched her from the shadows, torn, between irritation and an unfamiliar urge to connect. When she caught him staring, she raised an eyebrow. "Something on your mind, Mr. Peterson?" The formality of his name was a jab, playful yet precise. Liam frowned. "Call me Liam." She didn't smile. "And I'm Ava, not Housekeeper. Ava." The way she said it felt like a challenge. Liam's chest tightened. "Fine. Ava." The name tasted foreign on his tongue, like a language he'd forgotten. She nodded, seeming satisfied. "Good." The moment stretched, charged with unsaid things. Liam broke it first. "I need a drink." Ava pointed to the minibar. "Help yourself, but if you finish the scotch, I'm docking your pay." Her grin was quick, teasing. Liam felt a laugh bubble up, unexpected and warm. He smothered it. "You're impossible. You're unbearable." They spoke in unison, then froze. The tension in the room shifted, softened. Liam poured the scotch, his hand steadier than he expected. When he returned, Ava held out her mug. "To surviving the night," she said. Liam clinked his glass against hers. "To surviving the night." The toast felt like a truce. By 2 a.m., the fire had dwindled to embers. Ava's breathing evened out as she dozed in the chair, her book face down on her lap. Liam, sprawled on the sofa, stared at the ceiling, his mind racing. One night, he told himself. One room. But the rhythm of her breath, the faint scent of her jasmine perfume, and the weight of her quiet strength gnawed at his resolve. The idea of apologizing, a foreign concept, flitted through his thoughts. He dismissed it. She's just a housekeeper, he reasoned. Yet the words her father had left unsaid lingered. Kindness trumps hierarchy. Liam's jaw tightened. Tomorrow, he decided. Tomorrow, I'll sort this out. But as the blizzard howled outside, he knew tomorrow might be too late. Liam's irritation simmered as he stared at the ceiling, the rhythmic breathing of Ava's slumber a stark contrast to his racing thoughts. The suite's opulence now felt hollow, the crystal chandelier above doing little to warm the room, or his mood. She's still asleep, he noted with a flicker of surprise. Ava had dozed off hours ago, her book abandoned, her shoulders hunched protectively around herself. Humble housekeeper, he thought, the title both a label and a mystery. What had driven her to this life? Liam's gaze drifted to the half-empty mug on the side table. Herbal tea, she'd called it. The scent still lingered, earthy and calming. He hadn't slept either, his mind tangled in rare uncertainty. Ava stirred, stretching like a cat as the first light of dawn bled through the curtains. "Morning," she said, her voice soft but vibrant, as if the night's tension had never existed. Liam grunted, pushing himself off the sofa. How does she do that? He wondered. How she could rise unscathed from the ashes of his temper. Ava moved with quiet efficiency, adjusting the pillows, fluffing the throws. When she handed him a fresh blanket, her touch was brief, but deliberate. "You look like you need this more than I do," she said, her smile faint. Liam's shoulders tightened. "I don't need your pity." Ava's eyes darkened. "Who said anything about pity?" Her voice held a quiet strength that disarmed him. Acts of kindness, he mused bitterly. One of her, anyway. The day dragged on, the storm showing no signs of relenting. Liam tried to focus on work, but the silence upstairs had taken its toll on his concentration. Ava, ever the silent guardian, refilled his water glass without asking and stocked the minibar with his preferred whiskey, details he'd never mentioned. "How do you know what I like?" he asked, more curious than confrontational. Ava shrugged. "I pay attention." Her words hung in the air, a subtle reproach. Liam's irritation flared again, but beneath it, something new stirred. a grudging respect. She sees more than she lets on, he realized. When the power flickered again at dusk, Ava was ready with candles and a flashlight. "No use fighting it," she said, lighting the first wick. The room glowed warmly, the shadows less menacing now. Liam watched her, the firelight highlighting the faint scar on her wrist, a story she'd never shared. "You've got a knack for this," he said, nodding at the candles. Ava's smile was fleeting. Years of practice. The words were light, but her eyes held a depth of experience he couldn't fathom. Liam's curiosity prickled. "What's her hidden past?" he almost asked, but pride held him back. Instead, he focused on the practical. "How long do you think this will last?" Ava glanced out the window, where the snow still swirled like a blinding sea. "Days, probably. But hey," she added, her tone teasing, "at least you get a free room upgrade out of it." Liam snorted. "Hardly an upgrade." But the corner of his mouth twitched, a near smile that surprised them both. As night fell again, the suite's atmosphere had shifted subtly. The earlier tension was gone, replaced by an unspoken truce. Ava played a soft jazz playlist on her phone, the music drifting through the room like a balm. Liam leaned back on the sofa, the whiskey glass warm in his hand. "She's not what I expected," he thought. Her patience, her quiet resilience, they clashed with everything he'd assumed about people like her. People like her. The phrase stung. Liam glanced at Ava, who was now sketching something in her notebook, a habit she'd revealed earlier. "What's that?" he asked, nodding at the paper. Ava hesitated, then showed him. It was a detailed drawing of the resort's lobby, every detail captured with precision. "I like to draw," she said simply. "Never would have guessed." Liam's voice held a touch of awe. Ava shrugged. "Not everyone fits your labels, Mr. Peterson." The words stung, but in the candlelight, they felt less like a rebuke and more like a challenge, one he wasn't sure he was ready to accept. The resort's lights died with a flicker and a hum, plunging the suite into sudden darkness. Liam Peterson swore under his breath, his frustrated groan echoing off the walls. Ava Williams didn't miss a beat. She was already across the room, striking a match with practiced ease. "Candles, right?" she said, her voice steady as the first flame caught. Liam blinked against the encroaching shadows. "Of course, because nothing says luxury like reliving the dark ages." Ava's laugh was warm, almost melodic. "Think of it as atmosphere." She placed a lit candle on the nightstand, the flickering light painting her face in soft hues. "You'd think a place like this would have a backup generator," Liam muttered, his irritation rising with the dark. Ava shrugged, her silhouette graceful against the dim glow. "Even millionaires can't control everything." The words hung between them, a quiet truth that lingered long after the humor faded. With the electric lights gone, the room transformed. Shadows danced on the walls, and the air felt suddenly intimate, charged with the unspoken. Liam perched on the edge of the sofa, his eyes adjusting to the candlelight. Ava had moved to the armchair, her sketchbook open in her lap. "You draw?" he asked, the question escaping before he could censor it. Ava glanced up, surprised. "Yeah, helps me unwind." She flipped the page to reveal a detailed sketch of the resort's grand staircase, every curve and shadow captured with precision. Liam's eyebrows shot up. "Not bad for a humble housekeeper." Ava's smile turned wry. "Stereotypes are so last season, Mr. Arrogant Millionaire." The jab was gentle, but it struck a chord. Liam's jaw tightened. "What's your point?" Ava set the sketchbook aside. "No point. Just saying, you might learn something if you stopped labeling people." The candle's flame wavered, casting long shadows that mirrored the unease in Liam's chest. The silence that followed was thick, expectant. Liam's fingers drummed against his knee as he stared into the dancing light. Ava's soft voice cut through the quiet. "Want to play a game?" Liam snorted. "A game? Seriously?" Ava ignored his tone. 20 questions. You go first." Liam hesitated, then smirked. "Fine. Favorite luxury?" Ava didn't miss a beat. "Quiet mornings. You?" Liam's answer was instant. "First class seats." Ava rolled her eyes. Deep. Liam's laugh was unexpected, warm. "Your turn." Ava studied him, her gaze thoughtful. "Why do you collect so many watches?" Liam blinked. The question was personal, disarming. "My father's into horology. Sentimental value, I guess." Ava nodded, her expression unreadable. "Mine too." The admission lingered, a thread, connecting them across the room. Liam's curiosity flickered to life. "Your father?" Ava's smile turned bittersweet. "He passed. A few years back." Liam's throat tightened. "I'm sorry." Ava waved a hand. "Long story." The words hung, an invitation he wasn't sure he wanted to accept. As the candles burned lower, the conversation deepened. Not by much, but enough. Liam discovered Ava's love for jazz, her secret dream of opening an art studio, and her habit of counting snowflakes when stressed. She learned he'd built his first app at 16, that he hated the taste of pineapple, and that his favorite childhood memory involved a week-long power outage. "See?" Ava said, her voice gentle. "This isn't so bad." Liam didn't answer, but the ghost of a smile played on his lips. The fire in the hearth had long since died, but the candles kept the chill at bay. When Ava yawned, stretching languidly in the armchair, Liam noticed the exhaustion in her eyes, the kind that came from too many late nights and hidden worries. "You should rest," he said, surprising himself. Ava raised an eyebrow. "Since when do you care?" Liam's response was instantaneous. "Since the power went out." The humor was there, but beneath it, something new had taken root. A flicker of understanding, however fragile. The candlelight dimmed further, the room now bathed in a soft amber glow. Liam watched Ava as she settled deeper into the chair, her breathing evening out. The suite was quiet, the storm's howl the only sound breaking the stillness. One night, he thought. One room. But as the hours blurred and the barriers between them softened, Liam realized the real surprise wasn't the blizzard. It was the woman who'd forced him to see beyond his own reflection. "Tomorrow," he promised himself, "tomorrow, I'll make things right." But as the night wore on, he knew tomorrow might be too late. Liam Peterson's patience was wearing thin. After hours of candlelit silence, punctuated only by Ava's occasional sketching and the storm's relentless fury outside, he finally snapped. "Why are you here?" The question hung in the air, heavy with unspoken accusations. Ava didn't look up from her notebook. "I work here," she said flatly, her tone betraying nothing. Liam's irritation flared. "I mean, why? Cleaning rooms, taking orders. This isn't exactly a career path for someone with your talents." He gestured vaguely to her sketchbook, the pages filled with delicate drawings of the resort's architecture. Ava's pencil paused. "You think I chose this?" The edge in her voice was sharper than he'd ever heard. Liam leaned forward, the candlelight casting his shadow across the room. "Then why?" His voice dropped, almost urgent. "Why stay?" Ava's jaw tightened. She set the pencil aside, her hands folding neatly in her lap. "My daughter," she said softly. "She's 4, loves dinosaurs." Liam's throat tightened. "She's sick." It wasn't a question. Ava's nod was faint, her eyes glistening, briefly before she schooled her expression. "Leukemia. She's in a rehab center 2 towns over. Experimental treatment." Liam's mind raced. A medical miracle. he thought. The term her doctors had likely used. Ava continued, her voice steady but laced with exhaustion. 3 jobs. Cleaning here at night, bartending on weekends, tutoring online whenever I can. She laughed bitterly. Don't worry. I still find time to count snowflakes. Liam's stomach twisted. You do all that? For her treatment? Ava's smile was faint, tinged with pride. Wouldn't you? The question hit him like a fist. Of course I would, he realized, but the thought was foreign, untested. Liam's fingers drummed against the armrest. Why didn't you ask for help? The words surprised even him. Ava's gaze sharpened. From who? People like you? Her voice dripped with skepticism. Wealthy men who'd rather fund their next yacht than lift a finger for someone they deem beneath them? Liam flinched. The jab was brutal, but it rang true. He'd built his empire on calculated risks, never once looking back. Arrogant. Millionaire, he thought. The label now felt heavy, suffocating. I'm not like that, he said, but the words lacked conviction. Ava raised an eyebrow. Prove it. The challenge hung between them, a gauntlet thrown down in the flickering candlelight. The silence that followed was thick with unspoken truths. Liam's mind raced. How could he help? What could he offer that wouldn't come off as another empty gesture? Ava's quiet determination, her unwavering focus on her daughter, had chipped away at his defenses. She's a fighter, he realized, just like her father. The thought struck him suddenly, unexpectedly. Your dad, he said, catching Ava off guard. He mentored someone once, a young entrepreneur. Ava's breath hitched. How do you know about that? Her voice was a whisper, fragile and raw. Liam's heart pounded. This is it, he thought. The shocking connection he'd sensed all along. The man who gave me my start, Liam said, his voice steady despite the turmoil inside. Your father. Ava's eyes widened, her hands flying to her mouth. You're lying. Liam shook his head. His name was Thomas Williams. He believed in me when no one else would. Ava's face crumpled, tears spilling over as she whispered, Dad told me stories about you. Said you'd change the world. Liam's throat tightened. I thought I had, but I forgot. I forgot what it meant to help someone who couldn't help themselves. Ava's sobs grew louder, her grief and relief intertwining. Liam reached out, unsure, then hesitated. I'm sorry, he said, his voice breaking. I'm so sorry. The words felt inadequate. Redemption arc, he thought. But it was a start. As the night wore on, the suite's atmosphere shifted irrevocably. The arrogance that had defined Liam's every interaction with Ava began to crack, replaced by something raw and unfamiliar. Emotional transformation. Ava's pain, her strength, her love for her daughter, these were things no amount of wealth could buy. And as the first light of dawn began to bleed through the curtains, Liam knew his journey here had been about more than a blizzard or a shared room. It had been about rediscovering the man he'd once been and the man he still hoped to become. Liam Peterson sat frozen, the weight of Ava's words settling heavily in his chest. The flickering candlelight cast shadows that danced across her face, highlighting the exhaustion in her eyes and the quiet determination in her voice. 3 jobs, he repeated, his voice barely above a whisper. Ava nodded, her gaze steady but tinged with sorrow. Cleaning here at night, bartending on weekends, and tutoring online whenever I can squeeze it in. She forced a smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. Emma's treatment isn't cheap. The doctors call it a medical miracle, but miracles cost a pretty penny. Liam's mind raced. He'd seen enough financial statements in his life to recognize the weight of her words. 3 jobs, 3 grueling shifts that left no room for rest, no room for error. How do you manage? He asked, his tone devoid of the earlier sarcasm. Ava shrugged, her fingers nervously tracing the edge of her sketchbook. Coffee. Lots of coffee. Her attempt at humor fell flat in the charged silence. It's not forever, she added softly. Just until she's better. Liam's throat tightened. Just until she's better. 5 simple words that carried the weight of a mother's world. The room grew quiet, the only sound the soft crackle of the dying embers in the fireplace. Liam's fingers drummed against the armrest, his irritation replaced by a gnawing guilt. He'd spent years building walls around his heart, focusing solely on his empire, while Ava had been fighting a silent war for her daughter. A humble housekeeper,
he thought. The title now felt like a mockery. Ava's strength, her resilience, and her love for her child shone brighter than any achievement of his.
"Why didn't you ask for help?" he blurted out, the question burning in his chest. Ava's laugh was bitter. "From a stranger? From someone like you?" Her voice held no malice, just a weariness that spoke volumes. "People like me don't have the luxury of asking for help." Liam's jaw tightened. "People like me?" The phrase stung, cutting through his arrogance like a scalpel. He'd never been lumped into a category before, not by someone who saw right through him. "I'm not your enemy," he said, surprising even himself with the raw honesty in his voice. Ava's gaze met his, her eyes searching for something. Trust, sincerity, a glimmer of the man he'd once been. "Prove it," she whispered. The challenge hung in the air, heavy and expectant. The candlelight dimmed further, casting the room in a soft amber glow. Liam's thoughts raced. How could he help without overstepping, without humiliating her? Ava's quiet dignity was the last thing he wanted to trample. "Tell me about your father," he said suddenly, changing the subject but not the intent. Ava's eyes widened, her guard flickering for a moment before she composed herself. "He was a teacher, believed in second chances." Her voice was steady, but the catch in her throat betrayed her. Liam's heart skipped a beat. Second chances. The very thing he was now desperate to earn. "Mine too," he said, the words slipping out before he could censor them. Ava's brow furrowed. "What?" Liam hesitated, then pushed forward. "My father. He gave me a chance when no one else would." The admission felt like a step toward redemption, a step toward breaking down the walls he'd built. As the night wore on, the suite's atmosphere shifted subtly. The earlier tension had given way to a fragile understanding. Liam no longer saw Ava as just another employee. He saw her as a fellow human being, a warrior, a mother, a fighter. And in her eyes, he glimpsed a flicker of hope. A hope that maybe, just maybe, people like him could change. But the true test would come with the dawn. And as the first light of morning began to bleed through the curtains, Liam knew his journey here was far from over. The revelation sat heavily between them, the air thick with unspoken words. Liam Peterson stared into the dying embers of the fireplace, his mind racing. Ava's revelation about her 3 jobs had shattered his earlier assumptions. About her strength, about the depth of her resolve. She works 3 jobs, he thought, the weight of those words sinking in. For her daughter. Liam had faced challenges in his climb to the top, but none that demanded such constant sacrifice. Humble housekeeper, he mused. The title now felt like a gross understatement. Ava's uniform, once a symbol of her invisibility, now seemed like armor, hiding a warrior beneath. Ava's quiet resilience had always been there, he realized, visible in the way she carried herself, the efficiency with which she managed the suite, the calm dignity she maintained even when he'd snapped at her. But it had taken this moment, this confession in the candlelight, for him to truly see it. Liam's fingers tightened around the whiskey glass, the cold glass a stark contrast to the warmth in the room. "She's stronger than I am," he admitted silently. "Stronger than anyone I know." The thought was humbling, a rare moment of vulnerability. for the man who'd built his empire on control and precision. The silence stretched, filled only by the soft crackle of the fire. Liam's gaze drifted to Ava, who was now sketching again, her focus unwavering. The candlelight painted her face in soft hues, highlighting the faint lines of exhaustion, but also the quiet determination in her eyes. She's been fighting a war I never even knew about, he thought, and I've been too blind to see it. Liam's irritation from earlier had dissolved, replaced by a strange mix of admiration and guilt. How could I have missed this? He'd spent years perfecting his ability to read people, their weaknesses, their ambitions. But Ava had slipped through his radar, her strength masked by her uniform and her quiet demeanor. Ava glanced up, catching him staring. "What?" she asked, her voice light but her eyes sharp. Liam shook his head. Nothing. But the word felt inadequate. "Everything," he wanted to say. "Everything about you." Instead, he set his glass down with a quiet clink. "You're not what I expected," he said, his voice steady. Ava's smile was faint, knowing. People rarely are. Her words hung in the air, a gentle reproach. Liam's jaw tightened. "I underestimated you." Ava's laugh was soft, devoid of malice. "Join the club." The humor was there, but beneath it Liam sensed a flicker of hope. A hope that maybe, just maybe, he could make amends. The candle burned lower, the room now bathed in a soft, amber glow. Liam's thoughts drifted to his own past, to the early days when he'd fought for every break, every opportunity. We're not so different, he realized. She's fighting for her daughter. I fought for my empire. The parallels were unsettling yet illuminating. She's a fighter, he thought, just like me. And in that moment, something shifted. Liam's arrogance, his cold detachment, began to thaw, replaced by a quiet resolve. Redemption arc, he thought. This is my chance to change. But how? How could he atone for his earlier blindness? Ava's quiet strength demanded respect, not pity. "I'll find a way," he promised himself. "I'll make this right." As the first light of dawn began to bleed through the curtains, Liam knew the storm outside was still raging. But inside the suite, a different kind of transformation was taking hold, one that no amount of wealth or power could buy. Ava's sketchbook lay open on the coffee table, the pages filled with intricate drawings of the resort's grandeur. Liam's fingers brushed against the paper, the delicate lines telling a story of her hidden talent. "You're good," he said quietly, his voice edged with genuine admiration. Ava shrugged, her cheeks flushing faintly in the candlelight. "It's just a hobby." Liam's gaze shifted to her face, the shadows softening her features. "A hobby that could be so much more," he insisted. Ava's smile was fleeting, tinged with sadness. "Maybe someday." The words hung in the air, a quiet promise of a future that felt increasingly uncertain. The conversation turned to their childhoods, Ava's humble upbringing in a small coastal town, where she'd learned the value of hard work from her father, a man whose wisdom had shaped her into the resilient woman she was today. Liam spoke of his own beginnings, the relentless drive that had propelled him from a modest family to the pinnacle of tech entrepreneurship. "My father always said, 'Redemption arc. Every mistake is a chance to start anew,'" Ava shared, her voice steady, but her eyes reflecting a depth of emotion Liam couldn't fully decipher. Liam nodded, the weight of her words settling in his chest. "My father believed in second chances too," he said, the admission unexpected but true. "He gave me mine when I needed it most." As the night deepened, the stories flowed more freely. Liam learned of Ava's dream to open an art studio someday, a place where people could find healing through creativity. Ava listened as Liam spoke of his desire to leave a legacy that mattered, not just in boardrooms, but in the lives of those he'd overlooked. The emotional transformation was subtle, but undeniable. The barriers between them, once solid as the resort stone walls, began to crumble. Ava's voice softened as she spoke of her daughter, Emma, and the small victories in her battle against illness. "She's my world," Ava said, her eyes glistening briefly before she composed herself. Liam's throat tightened. "I have a niece," he offered, the words surprising even him. "She's 6, loves dinosaurs." Ava's smile was warm, genuine. "I'll tell Emma about her. Maybe they can be friends someday." The suggestion hung in the air, a fragile bridge between their worlds. The candlelight dimmed further, casting the room in a soft amber glow. Liam's earlier arrogance had given way to a quiet introspection. He realized with a start that he'd spent years defining himself by what he owned, not by who he was. Ava's strength, her resilience, her unwavering love for her daughter. These were things no amount of wealth could buy. And in her presence, Liam felt a flicker of something he'd long forgotten: humility. When the fire finally died, leaving only the faintest flicker of candlelight, Liam knew the night had changed him in ways he couldn't yet articulate. The humble housekeeper had become his unexpected teacher, her life story a mirror reflecting his own shortcomings and potential for growth. As dawn approached, the storm outside showed no signs of relenting, but inside the suite, a new bond had taken root, fragile but unshakable. The room had grown quiet once more, the flickering candlelight casting a warm glow over the suite. Ava's voice broke the silence, soft and tinged with nostalgia. "My father was an incredible man," she said, her gaze distant as if seeing him in the shadows. "He had this way of believing in people, even when they didn't believe in themselves." Liam's breath hitched. Her father, he thought, the man whose wisdom had once guided him through the darkest days of his career. "He mentored a lot of people," Ava continued, her smile faint but heartfelt. "Helped them find their path." The words hung in the air, a subtle thread connecting them across the room. Liam's mind raced. He remembered the man clearly: Thomas Williams, a seasoned entrepreneur whose guidance had been instrumental in launching his career. Liam had been a young, ambitious kid back then, full of ideas but lacking direction. Thomas had taken him under his wing, teaching him the ropes and instilling in him the values that would later define his success. But over the years, Liam had distanced himself from that mentorship, allowing arrogance and ambition to cloud the lessons he'd once cherished. Now, hearing Ava speak of her father, Liam felt a pang of guilt. How could I have forgotten? Ava's voice brought him back to the present. He always said, "Mentor's legacy. True success isn't measured by what you achieve, but by who you lift up along the way." Her smile faltered, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "He passed away a few years ago, but his words, they've stayed with me." Liam's throat tightened. Her father was the man who gave me my start, he realized. The weight of that connection settled in his chest, a mix of reverence and shame. The room fell silent again, the only sound the soft crackle of the dying embers in the fireplace. Liam's fingers drummed against the armrest, his mind racing. How do I tell her? The words threatened to catch in his throat. Ava glanced up, her expression gentle but probing. "Something's bothering you," she said quietly. Liam hesitated, then met her gaze. "Your father. He mentored me once." The admission hung in the air, heavy with unspoken truths. Ava's breath caught. "What?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. Liam nodded, his voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "When I was starting out, he took me under his wing, taught me everything I know." Ava's eyes widened, her face a mix of surprise and disbelief. "You're the one he talked about?" Liam nodded again. "The young entrepreneur who dreamed big but needed guidance." Ava's voice trembled with emotion. "He always said you'd change the world." The words struck Liam like a blow. Change the world? he thought. Have I? The atmosphere in the room shifted, the unspoken connection between them now tangible. Ava's grief and pride intertwined as she looked at Liam, seeing in him a piece of her father's legacy. Liam, on the other hand, felt a profound sense of humility. Her father's words had shaped him, he realized, and now, through her, he had a chance to honor that legacy. The realization brought with it a flicker of hope, a hope for redemption, for a future where he could live up to the man Thomas Williams had once believed him to be. As the first light of dawn began to filter through the curtains, Liam knew this revelation was more than just a turning point. It was a call to action, a chance to rewrite his story. And as Ava watched him, her eyes reflecting a mix of curiosity and lingering pain, Liam silently vowed to honor the legacy that had brought them together. Liam's breath hitched as Ava's words hung in the air. The flickering candlelight cast long shadows across the room, highlighting the mix of surprise and vulnerability in her eyes. "My father was an incredible man," she said softly, her voice steady but tinged with emotion. "He had this way of seeing people's potential and lifting them up." Liam's mind raced. He remembered Thomas clearly, the man who had once been his mentor, his guide, his North Star in the chaos of his early career. "He mentored a lot of people," Ava continued, her smile faint but heartfelt. "Helped them find their path." Liam's fingers tightened around his glass. "He helped me," he thought, "and I forgot." Liam had been a young, ambitious kid back then, brimming with ideas but lacking direction. Thomas had taken him under his wing, teaching him not just the mechanics of business, but the values that mattered: integrity, empathy, and the importance of giving back. But as Liam's empire grew, so did his arrogance. He distanced himself from those lessons, allowing ambition to cloud his judgment. Now, hearing Ava speak of her father, the guilt gnawed at him. How could I have forgotten? The room fell, silent, the only sound the soft crackle of the dying embers in the fireplace. Ava's voice broke the quiet. "He always said, 'Mentor's legacy. True success isn't measured by what you achieve, but by who you lift up along the way.'" Her smile faltered, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "He passed away a few years ago, but his words, they've stayed with me." Liam's throat tightened. Her father's words had been his guiding light, he realized, and he'd let them fade into the background. Liam's mind raced. He remembered the countless times Thomas had offered him advice, the late-night conversations filled with wisdom and encouragement. "True success isn't measured by what you achieve, but by who you lift up along the way," Thomas had said. Liam had carried those words with him, but over the years, they'd been overshadowed by the pursuit of wealth and power. Now, hearing Ava repeat them, the weight of those lessons settled in his chest once more. Ava glanced up, her expression gentle but probing. "Something's bothering you," she said quietly. Liam hesitated, then met her gaze. "Your father, he mentored me once." The admission hung in the air, heavy with unspoken truths. Ava's breath caught. "What?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. Liam nodded. "When I was starting out, he took me under his wing, taught me everything I know." Ava's eyes widened, her face a mix of surprise and disbelief. "You're the one he talked about." Liam nodded again. The young entrepreneur who dreamed big but needed guidance. Ava's voice trembled with emotion. "He always said, 'You'd change the world.'" The words struck Liam like a blow. "Change the world," he thought. "Have I?" The atmosphere in the room shifted, the unspoken connection between them now tangible. Ava's grief and pride intertwined as she looked at Liam, seeing in him a piece of her father's legacy. Liam, on the other hand, felt a profound sense of humility. Her father's words had shaped him, he realized, and now, through her, he had a chance to honor that legacy. The realization brought with it a flicker of hope, a hope for redemption, for a future where he could live up to the man Thomas Williams had once believed him to be. As the first light of dawn began to filter through the curtains, Liam knew this revelation was more than just a turning point. It was a call to action, a chance to rewrite his story. And as Ava watched him, her eyes reflecting a mix of curiosity and lingering pain, Liam silently vowed to honor the legacy that had brought them together. He'd spent years chasing success at the expense of others. Now, he wanted to be the kind of person Thomas would be proud of, the kind of person who could lift others up, just as he'd been lifted. The room grew quiet again, the only sound, the soft crackle of the dying embers. Liam's earlier arrogance had given way to a quiet introspection. He realized with a start that he'd spent years defining himself by what he owned, not by who he was. Ava's strength, her resilience, her unwavering love for her daughter, these were things no amount of wealth could buy. And in her presence, Liam felt a flicker of something he'd long forgotten: humility. As the first light of dawn began to bleed through the curtains, Liam knew the night had changed him in ways he couldn't yet articulate. The humble housekeeper had become his unexpected teacher, her life story a mirror reflecting his own shortcomings and potential for growth. And as the storm outside continued to rage, Liam felt a new bond forming, a bond rooted in respect, understanding, and the faintest glimmer of hope. The revelation hit Liam like a physical blow, the weight of it settling heavily in his chest. Ava's father, Thomas Williams, had been the very man who'd given him his start, who'd believed in him when no one else would. And here he was, years later, treating his daughter with the same arrogance and disdain he'd once sworn he'd never display. The room seemed to shrink around him, the candlelight casting his guilt into sharp relief. Ava's voice was steady, though Liam could hear the tremor beneath it. "You knew my dad?" she asked, her eyes wide with a mix of disbelief and vulnerability. Liam nodded, unable to look away. "He mentored me, taught me everything I know." The words felt like a confession, heavy with the shame of his past actions. Ava's expression softened, her guard lowering just a fraction. "He always spoke highly of you," she whispered. "Said you'd change the world." The praise, meant to uplift, only deepened Liam's sense of failure. The silence that followed was thick with unspoken truths. Liam's mind raced. How could he have let himself become the very thing Thomas had warned against? The arrogant millionaire who looked down on others, who forgot the lessons of humility and compassion. Ava's quiet strength, her resilience in the face of unimaginable hardship, had been a mirror to his own failings. And now, knowing her connection to Thomas, Liam felt a flicker of hope, a chance for redemption arc. Ava's voice broke the silence, her tone gentle but probing. "Why didn't you say anything before?" Liam's jaw tightened. Pride, I guess, and fear. Ava's eyebrows furrowed. "Fear?" Liam nodded. "Fear of facing what I've become. Fear of disappointing someone who meant everything to me." Ava's gaze softened further, her expression one of unexpected understanding. "My dad always said people are works in progress," she said quietly. "Even the most successful ones." The candlelight dimmed, casting the room in a soft amber glow. Liam's earlier arrogance had dissolved entirely, replaced by a quiet determination. He knew he couldn't undo the past, but he could honor Thomas's legacy by changing his future. "I'm sorry," he said, the words sincere and heartfelt. "For everything." Ava's smile was faint but genuine. "Apologies are a start," she said, "but actions speak louder." The challenge in her words reignited the flicker of hope in Liam's chest. As the first light of dawn began to filter through the curtains, Liam knew this moment marked a turning point. The shocking connection he'd discovered wasn't just a revelation, it was a call to action, a chance to rewrite his story, to become the man Thomas had believed in and to honor the legacy of a man who'd changed his life forever. And as Ava watched him, her eyes reflecting a mix of curiosity and cautious hope, Liam silently vowed to rise to the occasion. Ava's eyes were trained on Liam, her curiosity and guarded hope creating a palpable tension in the room. Liam's mind raced as he searched for the right words to express the depth of his remorse. "I can't change the past," he began, his voice steady but laced with genuine regret. "But I can try to make amends." Ava's expression softened slightly, her posture relaxing just enough to indicate she was listening. "How?" she asked, her voice gentle but deliberate, reflecting her desire for concrete actions rather than empty promises. Liam hesitated, then met her gaze with unwavering sincerity. "I want to help your daughter," he said, the weight of his intention hanging in the air. Ava's breath hitched, her eyes glistening with unshed tears as she whispered, "Emma." Liam nodded, his resolve strengthening with each word. "I have connections, resources. I can ensure she receives the best medical care available." Ava's throat tightened, her voice trembling with emotion as she asked, "You'd do that?" Liam's jaw tightened, a mixture of determination and vulnerability crossing his features. "Your father gave me a chance when I needed it most. Now it's my turn to pay it forward." The admission felt like a weight lifting from his chest, a small but crucial step toward redemption. Ava's eyes welled up with tears, but she blinked them back, her pride and determination still visibly present. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice filled with gratitude. Liam's throat tightened as he replied, "I'm sorry I didn't see this sooner. Sorry for how I treated you." Ava's smile was faint but genuine. "Apologies are a start," she said, "but actions speak louder." The challenge in her words reignited the flicker of hope in Liam's chest. As the first light of dawn began to filter through the curtains, Liam knew this moment marked a turning point. The shocking connection he'd discovered wasn't just a revelation, it was a catalyst for change. He'd spent years chasing success at the expense of others. Now he wanted to honor Thomas's legacy by becoming the man he'd once aspired to be, a man who could lift others up just as he'd been lifted. The room grew quiet again, the only sound the soft crackle of the dying embers. Liam's earlier arrogance had given way to a quiet introspection. He realized with a start that he'd spent years defining himself by what he owned, not by who he was. Ava's strength, her resilience, her unwavering love for her daughter, these were things no amount of wealth could buy. And in her presence, Liam felt a flicker of something he'd long forgotten: humility. As the first light of dawn began to bleed through the curtains, Liam knew the night had changed him in ways he couldn't yet articulate. The humble housekeeper had become his unexpected teacher, her life story a mirror reflecting his own shortcomings and potential for growth. And as the storm outside continued to rage, Liam felt a new bond forming, a bond rooted in respect, understanding, and the faintest glimmer of hope. Dawn arrived with a gentle persistence, the first light of day gradually pushing back the night's shadows. Liam stood at the window, watching as the snow outside settled into a serene blanket, the storm finally yielding to the calm. The room was quiet, the only sounds the soft rustle of Ava moving around as she prepared for the day, and the distant hum of the resort coming back to life. Ava paused by the window, her gaze drifting to the horizon where the sky began to lighten. "It's going to be a beautiful day," she said softly, her voice carrying a mix of weariness and tentative hope. Liam nodded, his attention still on the task at hand. "I made a call earlier," he began, not turning from the window. "To a friend who owes me a favor." Ava turned to face him, her brow creasing with quiet curiosity. "What kind of favor?" Liam finally turned, his expression serious but resolute. "Emma needs the best care possible, and I'm going to make sure she gets it." He paused, measuring her reaction. Ava's eyes widened slightly, her breath catching. You called someone about her treatment? Liam nodded. He's connecting me with a specialist, a pediatric oncologist with a reputation for working medical miracles. He saw the flicker of emotion in her eyes, a mix of gratitude and something deeper, more vulnerable. Ava moved to the edge of the sofa, her hands lightly brushing the fabric as if seeking stability. Liam, I don't know what to say. Her voice was steady but carried the weight of unshed tears. Liam's jaw tightened. You don't have to say anything. Just make sure she gets the help she needs. He hesitated, then added softly, for Thomas. The mention of her father's name struck a chord. Ava's eyes glistened, but she blinked back the tears, her pride and determination surfacing. Thank you, she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. This means more than you'll ever know. Liam's throat tightened. It's the least I can do. The room fell quiet again, the weight of the moment hanging between them. Liam's mind raced ahead, already planning the next steps. He pulled out his phone and dialed another number. This one familiar but rarely used. Hey, it's Liam, he said when the call connected. I need a favor, actually more like a miracle. His tone was brisk, but beneath it lay an urgency he couldn't mask. Emma's treatment needs to start ASAP. Pull every string you can. The person on the other end responded with a firm assurance, and Liam felt a measure of relief. I owe you one, he said before ending the call. Ava watched him, her expression a blend of awe and cautious hope. They're going to help, aren't they? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Liam nodded. By tomorrow, Emma will be in the best hands possible. The determination in his voice was unmistakable. As the morning light filled the room, Liam felt a shift within himself. The arrogance that had defined him for so long had been tempered by the events of the past night. He was no longer just the arrogant millionaire. He was someone who had witnessed the strength and resilience of a woman who had given everything for her child, and in that realization he found a new purpose. Ava approached him, her touch light on his arm. Liam, she said, her voice gentle. Thank you. It was a simple phrase, but it carried the weight of a world of unspoken gratitude. Liam's response was quiet but resolute. We'll get through this. Together. The words hung in the air, a silent promise between them. The journey ahead would be challenging, but for the first time in years, Liam felt a sense of clarity, a path forward that wasn't paved with gold or power, but with purpose and redemption. And as the first light of dawn painted the room in soft hues of gold and pink, Liam knew that this was only the beginning of their story. By mid-morning, the power had been fully restored, and the resort bustled with activity as staff worked diligently to clear the snow and return to normal operations. Ava stood by the window, watching the progress outside, her mind still reeling from the events of the past few days. The storm had disrupted her life in ways she couldn't have anticipated, but it had also brought unexpected changes that felt like the first rays of hope after a long night. Liam approached her, an envelope clutched in his hand. His posture was relaxed, but there was a determined glint in his eye. Ava, he began, his voice steady and sincere. I want to offer you something. She turned to face him, her expression a mix of curiosity and guarded optimism. What is it? She asked, her voice gentle but cautious. Liam extended the envelope toward her. A job, he said simply. At my company. Ava hesitated for a moment, before taking the envelope, her fingers brushing against his in a fleeting touch that sent a subtle charge through both of them. She opened it slowly, her eyes widening as she read the details. This is a position with full benefits, she murmured, her voice tinged with disbelief, and a schedule that accommodates Emma's needs. Liam nodded. I want you to have the support you deserve. No more juggling 3 jobs, no more sleepless nights. His words were firm, his commitment evident. Ava's throat tightened as emotion welled up inside her. "Liam, I don't know what to say." Her voice trembled slightly, revealing the depth of her gratitude. Liam stepped closer, his gaze meeting hers with unwavering sincerity. "Say yes," he said quietly. "For Emma, for your future." The words hung in the air, carrying the weight of possibility and the promise of a new beginning. Ava's resolve hardened, her determination matching his. "Yes," she said finally, her voice steady and resolute. "Yes, I'll take it." A faint smile played on her lips as she looked up at him, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "Thank you," she whispered. Liam's heart swelled with a mix of relief and hope. "Thank you," he replied, "for giving me the chance to make things right." The room fell quiet, the only sound the distant chatter of resort staff and the soft hum of the morning. A new bond had formed between them. A bond built on mutual respect, shared vulnerability, and the faintest glimmer of trust. Liam realized that this offer wasn't just about a job. It was about honoring Thomas's legacy and creating a future where both he and Ava could find redemption and peace. As Ava carefully placed the envelope on the windowsill, she turned back to Liam, her expression softening. "This means more than you'll ever know," she said, her voice gentle but filled with emotion. Liam nodded, his throat tightening with the weight of his own unspoken feelings. "I know," he replied, "and I promise I won't let you down." The moment stretched between them, charged with unspoken possibilities. From strangers to family, their journey had only just begun. And as the morning light filled the room, painting everything in soft, hopeful hues, Liam knew that this was only the first step toward a future shaped by gratitude, redemption, and the quiet promise of a fresh start. The days that followed were a blur of organized chaos. Emma was admitted to a top medical facility, her treatment schedule meticulously planned to give her the best possible chance at recovery. Ava navigated her new role at Liam's company with surprising ease, the demanding workload now balanced against the precious moments she spent by her daughter's side. Liam, for his part, threw himself into ensuring every detail of Emma's care was flawless, even surprising Ava with his presence during one of his rare free moments. One evening, as they stood together on the hospital's rooftop garden, watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of orange and gold, Ava turned to Liam. Her voice was soft, filled with a gratitude that words could barely express. "I never thought I'd say this, but thank you," she said, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. Liam shook his head, his gaze steady and sincere. "Thank you," he replied, "for showing me what really matters." The air between them crackled with unspoken emotions, a fragile yet powerful bond forming. From strangers to family, their connection had been forged in the crucible of a blizzard, a bond built on gratitude, redemption, and the quiet promise of a future where both could finally find peace. The journey ahead was uncertain, filled with challenges and moments of doubt. But for the first time in years, Liam felt a sense of clarity. This wasn't just about making amends. It was about building a new chapter, one rooted in purpose and compassion. Ava's hand brushed against Liam's, a gentle touch that sent a warmth through him. "We'll get through this," she said, her voice firm with resolve. "Together." Liam nodded, his heart swelling with hope. Together. The word hung in the air, a simple yet powerful commitment to a future shaped by their shared strength and vulnerability. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the rooftop, Liam knew this was only the beginning of their story. The path ahead would be difficult, but they would face it side by side, united by a bond that had grown from the ashes of arrogance and hidden pain. And in that moment, as the last light of day faded into twilight, they stepped into their future, not as strangers, but as family. Thank you for watching this emotional journey of arrogance, redemption, and unexpected connections. We hope Liam and Ava's story has touched your heart and made you reflect on second chances and the impact of kindness. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and share what moment impacted you the most. Did you expect the twist? How do you think Liam will continue to grow? And don't forget to hit that like button and share the video if you enjoyed it. Follow us for more stories that will make you laugh, cry, and believe in the power of human connection. Stay tuned. You never know what story might change your perspective. Remember, sometimes life's most unexpected moments can lead to the most meaningful transformations. Until next time.